Welcome again to the Mini Pea Pod, and we are certainly glad that you're able to join us again on today as we continue our series entitled Living Our Best Life. And we kicked off our series last week with a special guest by the name of Kyle Hunter Matthewson, who came to share with us how to successfully have some me time as fellas. And we want to keep that conversation going in the upcoming weeks, and we'll have some other male guests come on the show to speak to us in that regard. But I wanted to pop in today just to offer some insight on two things. One is how to have me time at the right time, and how to have me time in the right way. And so what I'll say about that is that there is a right time to have me time, and there is an absolute wrong time to actually go after some me time. And so if you are actually in a situation where you are feeling down and depressed, or where you feel emotionally exhausted, then I would offer that that is not the best time to go after me time, because that can lead to some things that are very complicated in life. And I want to share just real quickly two biblical accounts to support what I am offering on today. And one is an account about a guy by the name of David. And so David is now king of Israel, and at a time when kings normally go out to battle, is what the scripture says, David elected to stay back. And so I would argue he had reason to do so, and that it may quite have been that he just wanted some time to himself, some time to rejuvenate himself, and time to refresh himself, whatever the case, maybe some me time as a guy. And so we find David in the kingdom, and he's out on his rooftop, and he sees a beautiful woman, and he inquires as to who is this woman, and he finds out that she is actually someone else's wife. And at a time when I would like to believe that David probably would have dialed back, quite possibly being in the state of mind that he was in, he actually did not dial back. He actually moved forward in the situation. And actually what came out of that was an affair that took place with someone else's wife, and a child that was born. And so things got complicated really, really quickly in this situation, and David finds himself in a very difficult situation as a result of really just trying to hang back and to have some me time at a time when he probably should not have gone after me time. And so a second account that I'll share with in a similar vein is that an account of a man by the name of Judah. And so Judah is in a complicated situation because Judah's wife has died. And of course, there's depression that comes with that, and there's a downside that, that kind of hangs and clings to us in that situation. But months later, he finds himself on a journey, and he encounters someone who he thinks is a prostitute, and decides to become involved in that regard. But it gets complicated really fast, and it turns out that this is not actually a prostitute. This is someone that he actually knows. And so things kind of spun out of control in that regard. But at a time when he probably should not have gone after, me time, and he should have probably just stayed on the journey, he finds himself in a very complicated situation. And so I just want to share that with you, because there's nothing new under the sun, and things happen in life. And I don't want us to think that, this is something new that we're actually encountering ourselves. But this has been going on since the beginning of time. And so there is absolutely a wrong time to go after me time. And so the other thing that I want to share with you is there is actually a wrong way, I would say, to go after me time as well. So if you find yourself in a situation where you want some me time, and you end up, say, like in a strip club, or let's say a gentleman's club, then I would offer that that's probably not the best use of me time, because that can get complicated really fast, especially if you have a significant other or a spouse. And I also want to offer that if you have an issue with gambling and you're looking for me time by going to the casino, then that may not be the best combination of me time as well. And further, if you are at the bar by yourself, then you might attract some things that you may not intend to attract in that situation. So that may not be the best way to have me time. And what I would offer is that you may want to invite some trusted male friends with you to the bar to hang out with if you want to be there. And that will help probably, alleviate some issues that you might run into by being there by yourself. But another thing I want to say in that regard is that if you're in a relationship with a spouse or a significant other where there's been an indiscretion, then it may be very difficult for you to find some me time because of the tension in that relationship. And so what I would offer is that, first of all, that I would hope and offer that you please go get some counseling as a couple to help heal that situation. And then once that has taken place, I would offer that you get creative in how you go after me time, and maybe just find a way to do it where you can actually do me time at home in a very productive way. And so what I would offer in that regard is just to make your house the fun house, and to have friends over and to just create a space where, people want to be, and just to go all out and to really enjoy yourself in that space. And that will kind of alleviate the worry that your spouse may have about something might be taking place somewhere else. And so if you can make your house the fun house, and then teach yourself to really enjoy it as such, and not to look at it as you being imprisoned or something like that, and not to really highlight that that's the reason why your house is being used as the fun house, then I think it would go a long way into allowing you to have some successful me time as a fella. And so I wanted to offer those 2 tidbits of advice, that there is an absolute right time to have me time. And that time is when we're feeling, ourselves feeling healthy, and we're actually participating in a healthy rhythm of life. And that there's a right way to have me time. And that is a way that is that's actually productive, and that it doesn't lead to some things that we don't want to have, that will further complicate our lives. And so one other thing I wanted to share before I hop off today is that some people may ask, why bring up the account of David and Bathsheba, and to really talk about that from a biblical standpoint, and why talk about Judah and the difficulty that he was having after his wife passed. And what I'll offer is that everything that God gave us in Scripture is intended for our benefit. And so I believe that we do ourselves a disservice by not talking about it, because life happens and life comes at us fast, and sometimes we get off course. And so there's nothing new under the sun. And I think that's why God gave us those accounts, so that we can have a healthy example of how things can go wrong, and still know that we can get back in the game and get back on track by just reconnecting with Him. And so thank you again for joining the Mini P Pod, and for being a part of our series entitled Living Your Best Life. And I would like to spotlight someone this week, as we do each week for the Mini P Pod. And this week is Dwayne Wade. And so if you've been around the NBA for any number of years, you probably have seen him as a fixture on the Miami Heat, or quite possibly playing for the Chicago Bulls. But Dwayne Wade, I applaud off screen and on screen, and certainly on screen for his professional abilities, but also off screen as a parent who's definitely been invested in his kids' lives for any number of years. And so I've watched Dwayne from afar, obviously, for any number of years, actually support his kids, walk through life with his kids, and really put his family first. And so Dwayne, I say congratulations for that. And not that we ever get anything right, totally right as parents, none of us do. But I certainly applaud your efforts. I applaud your involvement in your kids' lives. And I applaud the example that you set of being really engaged in your family's life of any number of years, and being consistent in that. So thank you again for being a great dad. And again, I'm not saying you get it all right by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a parent. I have not gotten it all right. But I do applaud your efforts. And I want to say thank you again. And I want to thank all of you for joining the Mini P Pod again on today.